Hello everyone, so I thought I would share one of the ways I texture my models from Plasticity. A lot of times I take my model into 3DCoat and then back into Blender to light and set up the scene. I use 3DCoat for the main purpose of UV mapping and texturing my main objects in a lot of cases. So some of the benefits of using 3DCoat are the software can automatically UV map your entire object very easily. 3DCoat offers tons of materials that you can download when needed for free. Also, you can take existing textures and change colors on the textures to get the materials more like the colors you want to add to your models. So for this Sci-Fi floor panels, I'm going to show you my process and how I tackled it. So I have 2 prior videos in building these models, so check them out. If you want to download the models, then join my Patreon page to follow along with this process. Okay, let's get going. So I'm going to start off with these sections here. There's 2 sections that I've shown on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to take all these, I'm going to basically hide all the tubes, the pipes, because again, I don't want to have a massive pipe where I could just make just a cylinder, real simple cylinder with not a lot of polys on those. So I would do that separately on cylinders. And yeah, basically I'll bring those in separately. And this is my process to do this. So here we go. I also took the lights out as well. So let's go ahead and go to export. And I'm going to bring this into 3DCoat for my selection of what I want to use here. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Combine 3 OBJ. And I'm going to save this and overwrite it. It comes back with some options. Okay, so here I could either do tris, quads, or n-gons. To make it a little simpler, I'm going to mostly need to, if I do n-gon, sometimes it does a little bit of not a good job when it comes to like 3DCoat. If I bring this into Blender with n-gons, it works fine. For some reason, it does some weird stuff when it comes in. So either quads or tris is what I would select. And we can just go with quads for now. Now, I put it at 1 is the density. I do that at full. I also check the mid width. And on this specific one, I went to like 0.004. And be careful with this. If your object's really big, then you might want to go with 0.001, not like 3 zeros out, but 2 zeros out. Again, don't forget that whenever you do this, it's really taxing on your system. So be careful when you select this stuff. Make sure that your computer can handle whatever you're doing. Just do it slowly is my suggestion. So anyway, I'm not going to go too much over, how I export it out, more of just the 3DCoat process. So in here, I also do max width, about 0.05. Normally comes with 1. And I make it so it blocks sections out. If I don't do that, it just becomes a very open area. And if I take this off, for instance, it'll change quite a bit. And you got these lot longer spreads on these basic quads. And I feel like if you use that, you have a lot better control because it kind of like keeps it, tighter. So I'm going to go with that. Hit OK. And once it's completed, it go into like a yellow mode. There it goes. Okay, cool. Now this is a pretty intensive model. I'm not doing this for a game. It's about, I think, 300 something tries in a sense. And yeah, again, I'm not really caring about that. If I was, I wouldn't even make these grids. I would actually make fake grids and do a lot of different things if it was for a game. Anyway, just this is something I'm going to do for like a little animation that I'm working on. So here we go. So let's go to 3DCoat. All right, so now I'm actually in 3DCoat, and I'm going to actually bring in my model just for painting purposes. So again, I'm not going to modify it at all. Kind of like what I have. So in this case, I would go to the Paint UV Mapped Mesh section here, and we select this, and we could actually work on a model that's already been created or bring a ball, square, whatever you want it. But I'm going to actually go to my folder to make it simpler and then select my most latest one for this project, which is this one right here. So again, I brought this in as a Sci-Fi floor FBX and I did quads. So I'm going to open this up. And when it comes up, you're going to have these options. You can keep your UVs since actually, I don't want to keep UVs. I want to actually start off with my own UVs with the program doing it for me. I'm going to have this Z up because that's what we use in Blender. So if you're using Blender, this is what you want to do. If not, you might change it to whatever you're using, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and treat each material as separate textures. And I'm just going to name these with different numbers here just to make it easier for me. Again, you don't have to do this. This is something I prefer. And I'm going to keep this at 4096 and go ahead and hit OK. Now I'm going to go and fast forward this to the next section here because this takes a little bit of time. Just one thing to note, I'm not being paid by 3DCoat for this information. Just want to show the use of using this type of program, which I feel is very helpful for doing basically your actual texturing and stuff like that. And it does do a great job in voxels as well. But again, some people might prefer this program, but I like it for whatever I use. I don't have to pay a monthly fee, which is great. All right, so still coming in. It's going to take a few minutes. All right, so my model just came in, and I'm going to basically rotate this around. I'm using my Alt key to kind of help maneuver. And it's just basically, yeah, it came out really nice with the quads. Again, if I don't do that, it can be kind of, it can have like tears and stuff in some of these sections where a lot of this stuff bunches up. Again, it's just a good way to control the actual model itself. And yeah, I'm good with this. So first things first. What I normally do is I go in here and actually, you can't see the map right now, but it actually is right below here. This is your UV map that was created when I brought this in. So again, it creates this for you and it does all the hard work for you. So you don't have to do all that within Blender. So this is a benefit in my opinion. So again, I'm going to go ahead and now go to edit. And I'm going to do a few things that I normally do always. Calculate collision. So it's going to set up for sphere, hemisphere. I always set it up like that way. And I actually do it 4096, which is fine. It just adds to the textures itself, the mapping. It's kind of like Photoshop. It has variations of textures here. So we can say, okay. Now, once you do this, you're going to see a lot more shadows and stuff within the model. And it gives a lot more of an edge to everything. And it just really makes it look much better. So always do the collision pass, in my opinion. So you see what this looks like after it's done. See, now everything's dark. Everything that's dark is pretty much stuff that you're not really seeing much because it's actually inside the model and most likely inside these holes or things like that. But it does give a nice shadow in those areas and just gives a more realistic, looking model. So that's one. Two, go back to edit. And I'm also going to select the calculate curvature. Now, again, you could do sphere or sphere, hemisphere, whatever you prefer. I'm okay with 1600 on the light, so hit OK. And this adds another texture to the existing textures. Okay, so that one's done too. Now, my process is I normally create a couple different layers. So one, I'm going to go ahead and create one layer here. I'm going to double click it. So get off it. And I'm going to call one of these layers metal. And I'm going to actually create another layer. And this one I'm going to call it plastic. Got to do it pretty fast. So plastic. And I'm going to use these two to help me drive basically different materials. So this is the first step. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back to, this is where you add all your textures. So this little sphere model is where all the textures reside. Okay, so now I'm actually going to go to the actual section here and I'm going to work on some textures. So like I said earlier in my video that you can actually download a lot of different textures through the actual 3DCoat website. You just have to go there and do it. And I'm going to show you an example of that. When I go to here and I want to go do plastics, I go to plastic section here and it kind of already broke it out for me, but you could actually make your own folders and stuff. But in here, for instance, I have this thing called plastic shabby and there's like basically 5 different sections here that I've already kind of used, but one of them was the original, of course. And I've actually added more colors to this texture, more of what I like. So I've kind of recreated the orange. So if you double click it, you can actually open it up. And if it didn't go open, just go double click one more time. And you'll see that actually I've added the orange here. This is like your main color This is like your bleed off or your edges that is created by the actual texturing setup. And if you go here and bring your material closer, you can see kind of what it does. And you can actually expand this or do whatever you want. But one of the ideas here is that you want to make it look the colors that you want, of course. Now I've actually added the orange. And if you click here, you can see that I've kind of brought it over to here and kind of, just highlighted it more of an orangish color. And you can make it darker orange if you want, whatever you want. Hit OK. Now that this is done, I don't have metal on here. And a few other things just to note. We'll go into more of this little bit of detail here, degree and edge and things like that a little bit later. But this is kind of like the edge that we're looking at. So if you want to make this a little darker, you can. So it adds more of a darker edge. It just depends what you're trying to go for, So anyway, I'm just going to start using the actual fill section right here. And this helps you kind of drive. And I make sure that this is actually right over here. You got these different sections. And I go with the full-on fill. If I go with this square or rectangle or these other tools, I actually have to create and close something out before it fills that section. And for this, what I'm doing here, I'm just going to use this basically. Now, if I go here and select this, it actually creates that color for me. And same with this one, which is great. However, with doing this, I really didn't want this one to be orange. I kind of wanted this piece to be orange. So because these are connected on the UV, it actually is causing it to become that. We can just go in and erase it, the part that we don't want. So let's go ahead and hit the erase button. And we have this here. We can actually right mouse actually, and it brings it a little bit bigger. And we could actually use the eraser just for this part right here. And we could actually use the squared off just to kind of control what area we want. So I got that selected here, not this. You can do this too. I mean, that's another option. You can just do this, right? So whatever you prefer. It's just easy to do. So anyway, I got those all deleted. And what I want to do now is just go back and basically change this a little bit. So I want this to be more of a metal look. So I'm going to go back to here, metal, and get away from the plastic. First of all, I'm going to save this. So I don't have to, I can't close that without doing that. So go to metal. Okay, I'm going to go over here now. I'm going to go to the metal. And same thing here. We can control different things. And if I go back to metal, I got all these different colors and stuff like that. And I've kind of went in and just added, like, for instance, this one here, the gun old. And I made it a little different with this one. And if I select this, you kind of can go in here now and double click it. Again, if you want to modify anything that you want to change, you could always save as at the end. But this is kind of what it's going to, look like. So if I look at this, you'll see this is kind of a lighter gray. And you got different things here, scratches, paint. This is kind of set up by their own, setups that they already did for you. But this is your paint color. So if you want to change this to make it a little bit darker, you can, or a little bit lighter. It just depends what you want. So this area here, I kind of want it a little bit lighter. And if you go in a little bit closer, I use the right mouse button to kind of zoom in a little bit. I want to see what this looks like kind of. And you see it does have some colorations and things like that. You can change some of this stuff by adding in, the edge here and degrees and things like that. So if you go here, you can bring up the degree or bring it down, and it controls kind of what you're looking for. Now, this part here was also metal. So this is like oxide. You don't need metal on oxide. And scratches, you can use the metal, of course, on this, which makes sense. And then you also have scratches over here. And there's just a lot of different stuff here, right? Now, the amount of percentage that you're doing degree here kind of controls where that's going to be showing up at. So if you kind of reduce these down and then bring the edges down a little bit, it'll kind of reduce the amount of that effect. So again, I go to all these and kind of just bring it down a little bit, just to kind of, lighten it down a little bit. I might put a little bit of edge there. Again, degree here. See, if you bring this down, you see how it's kind of making it more of it's taking that gray now and actually filling it in more. So it just, yeah, this kind of takes away some of that. So if I go back here and I kind of just reduce this down, it becomes a lot more darker gray. And we could actually reduce the edge here a little bit. This gives a little bit less of, so much detail. If you really want that detail, it's great, but I really don't want so much stuff there. So now that I got this, I'm going to go ahead and use the paintbrush this time because I don't want to affect this at all. I just want to affect this, right? So now if I go in here, I could actually just paint this section here and just go all the way down and just kind of make sure I kind of control that area. And same thing here. And that's okay that we got other sections selected because again, I'm not really going to worry about these edges right now. I just want to make sure I painted this. Now that I've done that, I could save this. And I kind of want to just go ahead and, even though it's a plastic, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like bring that in. I just think it would be much better to do. So, because I want to kind of offset this from that and just get rid of that basically. So to do that, since I'm in metal and I created this texture on metal, it'd be better if I just take this and just kind of add a texture to it. So keep that in mind. It's just easier that way sometimes to kind of have options with certain parts. So if we select this now, I had the eraser on right. I didn't want to do that because I don't want to erase this piece right here. But if I go into the actual paint mode and use the fill, I'm only going to be painting this little piece right here, right? And this piece. So that kind of helps drive that piece from being different than this piece, right? So that worked out. And I still got the nice orange that I like. All right, so I'm actually now still in the metal section. I want to actually now select a different metal. So I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go down. I kind of really like this metal painted dark. So I got this selected, and in here, if you see this, it actually has basically the dirt map already on here and paint and metal. So it is a metal map again, and it's using like a light gray to define some of the actual mask areas. And it's also using this paint color, which is really dark, which is what I want. And it's also using like a brown. So I'm using these different settings here. If you want to kind of emulate these, I would download that metal painted dark, and you could use that from their system. And in here, if you select any of this stuff, we can actually, I've kind of brought down the degree a little bit so it's not so heavy. See how it kind of like takes away some of that, and the edge itself. And a lot of times if you just, it's really this one here, the paint area is what you want to work on. So if I bring this up or down, especially in here, the degree, it really adds, to that realism on the edge. I don't want to put too much on that degree. And again, if I just take away a little bit of the edge here, it gives you a little bit softer effect. So I'm using this for this piece here, right? And I want to use the fill tool. And this will kind of like just fill this whole section in for me. So now that I selected it, and it's going to only select the area that I selected, right? So I think it is a little too aggressive personally. So I'm actually going to adjust this a little bit. I mean, there's some little issues with my mouse right now. I might have to move this over just so I can see what I'm doing here. So now that I have this here, it gives me more of an understanding what this is going to look like. So that go back here to the degree and the edge. I'm going to bring this edge down a little bit more. I don't want to have that much. So a little bit of control goes a long way here. See kind of how that now is nice and just really nice and soft. And we could bring this down about here maybe. So let go. And we could even go maybe to 2 or something like that. So type in 2, tab. And that kind of helped. And then also if you go to the degree here, just kind of just lighten this down just a little bit. This way you get some edges, but not a lot. Now, if you don't let go of this, it actually will hold it. So kind of be careful. Once you actually do this, I'm going to bring this just up a little bit. like that. Let go with my mouse. Yeah, it's really picky sometimes. So if you just bring it in just a smidgen, like right there, I'm good with that 0.0875. Now we can go in here, just select it. And yeah, that looks a lot nicer. This gives just a little bit of edge. And I'm going to save this. You can save as if you want, but I'm going to save it. I want that better looking model there. I'm going to also select here and as well down here. All right, so a few more things. I'm going to go ahead and fill these other sections here because I really want this to be the same texture as those other ones. Now I have to go backwards. So go ahead and select these 3 parts right here. And that's it for that. Okay, so we've got nose. I also want to change this one here. I want to make this more of a lighter gray just to kind of, so it doesn't stand out. So again, we can go back in here, just basically go ahead and select what we already had. We could duplicate this and we could just make this a lighter color. And it really works great for that. So we can, now that we're already in here, we can go in here and just change this. So I'm going to go ahead and change this dark color here to more of a light color, like there. And you'll see that's going to be more like this, right? So it's definitely lighter. And I think what I could do here is just kind of change this metal to more of a, maybe make this a little bit darker. So it kind of gives a variation. Okay, so now we can select this here and just make that more of a different texture. And we can move this over with the Alt key. And you can zoom in a little bit. Now, if you're not seeing what you like and you want to add a little bit more detail to it, you can. So for instance, in this gray, because they're kind of close, you might want to just add a little bit more changes to the actual degree and stuff. So we can bring this up a little bit more. See how that kind of gives a little bit more of that black edge? And we can also do a little bit on this point here. And you see that kind of gives a little bit variations. And again, it's using this darker gray. I might even go lighter. So I might go really light here. Just to kind of give it more of a, just a change here. Okay, I think that looks good. So let's try this. This is a little bit more worn down look. So if I click on this now, yeah, it kind of gives it more of a worn out look. And I could do the same thing here since I'm already here. There we go. Cool. So yeah, it's really simple, right? And now I'm going to add some more orange. And to do that, I'm going to make sure I save this. And it gives us just a nice, like, worn look. Might even do a little bit more in the black, but for now, I'm going good with that. So before I go to the textures here, I'm going to go back to the plastic, and I'm going to select this here, up here, metal, and go to plastic. And I'm going to go back to the orange color that we were using earlier, which is this one. And I'm going to start adding this to the rest of the object here. So one thing I'm going to do is going to select this one here, and I'm going to turn this around a little bit and just kind of zoom in a little bit more. Again, continue to drive this. One there, one here. I think I'm going to go with these as well. This one, and I'm going to do all these pieces right here. This one. We're going to do all these real quick. I'm going to speed this part of the video up. Okay, so that's it for the orange. And now I'm going to continue to drive some other colors and other things on this object. Okay, so let's go back to the actual metal again. And I'm going to actually change this color here as well as these bottom pieces. And I'm going to go back to metal. So go back to metal. And I got different variations of metals, so I'm going to go this one this time. So basically I want to go to get a nice, gray texture. Now, I was going to go with this one, but both of these textures actually are textured images that are added to the one image. So it's not controlled really by the color. So kind of keep that in mind. Sometimes you're going to have those issues like that. All right, so I'm going to select this metal old texture. I thought this might look nice for this. And you'll see that it kind of has a lot of like white sections within the texture. So let's go in here and kind of just modify this a little bit. I already have a couple copies here, so I'm good with that. As you can see, there's a lot of variations here. And we could kind of just basically bring this stuff up a little bit more. And to do that, we can take this roughness and bring it up. So it's not so shiny. We can bring this one up more like to 50. And this one's at 100, 100. And this is at really low, but if you bring this up, we can actually get more of a darker looking material. And that looks nice. And I think the scratches are fine. The dirt's fine. I think I want to, again, this is like your main paint right here. So this is right here, the main paint. So we can actually take down the degree. And some of the edge here. And part of the problem is these other ones have too much degree on them. So it's actually overfilling. So sometimes you kind of just need to adjust these things as you go through it. I'm okay with a little bit of edge here. I'm just going to take this degree down a little bit more. And again, same thing here, bring this down. Just helps take some of this away. And I think that looks nice. I think I'd like to make this a little bit darker though. So, okay, we're going to adjust a few more things here. So again, we can kind of take down some of the edge. And I think some of these are actually overfilling some of it. So the degree could go down a little bit here. And again, here as well, just to kind of soften it a little bit more. I think there's too many scratches there. So same here, bring this down a little bit, the degree. And again, it gives you a much nicer looking thing. And the oxidation is, I think, a little dark. I might brighten this up a little bit. So if I lighten this here and go more like a grayish, see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks nice. I think I'll definitely make this more shiny. And this as well. So this can go down a little bit more. It gives it a nice little variation there. So let's go and select this and see how that looks. And same with this one. Yeah, that looks nice. It has variations. I think I'll also select this little section here as well. So select this one, this one. And we can move this over now with the Alt key. So bring this over. And again, zoom in, bring this over a little bit more. And I'm going to hit this one as well. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I want to add a different color to this. All right, so I'm good with this. I'm going to basically move this over. Move this a little bit higher and then save it. All right, so a couple more things I'd like to do is kind of add a little bit more detail. So if I go back to regular metals, go here, and in here, I'm going to go back to this one that I used earlier. I'm going to kind of use this to kind of help just add a little bit more detail there, as well as here. And I think I'd like to adjust this a little bit more as well. So let me double click here. Just want to zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I think the dark's fine. I think I need to add a little bit more. I think this has too much wear on it, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this for now. I'm going to go back to this one. So again, go back. We were at this one here. And if I click on it, yeah, that looks a little better. Let's do a Control Z. I'm going to go back to this one. Yeah, I think that looks good. Also, I would go with this as well. So it's a little bit lighter. All right, so I thought I'd actually add in some screws to these little things here, like a brass nut or something. So again, I'm going to go back to the metals, and I'm going to try to find something that's brassy looking or copperish. I think I'll go with this one here, and we can just zoom in a little bit. And all we're going to do is just, we can actually right click, just kind of shrink this down. It doesn't matter because we're doing a fill anyway, but yeah, that looks really nice. I think we're just going to hit these. Now, if for some reason it's not working, then it could be that there's already a metal here. So I'll select that one instead. And let's do the other ones as well. This one, this one, this one, this one. And we'll keep going with it. And this one. There we go. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and select this again. And in here, I'm going to change some things. I just not liking the effect. So I kind of like this darker color, which is fine, but I also want to take away some of these other things. So we can take down some of this degree a little bit. And we can also bring the roughness up. And that really should make this not so much detail. Again, bring this up a little bit. Also bring this degree up a little bit. And this kind of makes it more of a, closer to this color. And if I bring it up a little bit more, maybe down a little bit, right about there, I think. I think that looks good. I'll keep the metal at exactly 100. And if we change the degree now, see, it kind of like makes it more of a less chaotic stuff on here. Again, I could bring this down just a little bit. And this actually shows a nice amount of little bit of detail, not a lot, which is kind of what I wanted. At the same time, I don't want it that light now. I kind of want to bring it down a little bit. So we can hit OK here. Yeah, I just think that is going to look a lot nicer. So if I click here, actually undo, I want to make sure this is actually now back on fill. And we can actually just hide this piece here. I don't really need this here. Just close this out. And we can just hit this now. And that filled that. And same with this one. So I really like this texture better than before for this model. So I'm going to save as new. And that way it's kind of its own thing. I'm also going to go back here and kind of change these two as well. So we'll select this here. And select this one here. So yeah, it actually has the same color, just by the turning of the camera makes a big difference. Now, again, these are a little aggressive in my opinion too, because it just has a lot of grime on them, especially on different angles. And I think it'd be nice to kind of use the same type logic that we just did. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same texture again. Again, you can keep using stuff over and over again, just kind of adjust it to your liking. So I'm going to duplicate this now because I know I'm going to redo this. And now that I got this, I could double click this. And we could do some more adjustments. Get rid of this one for now. And let's go ahead and just change this. I want this to be, again, a little bit lighter. Let's see what this looks like. And I think that's a little too light, but what I could do is just bring this maybe up a little bit more, like that. And I think I want it much darker. Let's go with dark, like that. So this is a little bit darker than the ones that we just did. And I could change some things here, like the roughness a little bit, just to kind of make it a little bit darker even. And I think that looks really nice. And I think I was also going to think about just taking this down a little bit more. This degree down a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit of edge wear. And then in here, I'm going to bring that up a little bit more. Kind of like that. So I'm going to save this one. And I think this will look nicer. So let's go and select it and now change the color. Now it's pretty close to the edge colors. It's a little different though, of course. And if you turn it at a different angle, you'll see that it does have some edge wear. I might actually just add a little bit more to this. So let's go back here, double click it. And I'll add a little bit more of a degree here. Because again, I want it to stand out a little bit more on the edge wear. So let's bring this up again. I think right there is good. This kind of will just take away some of that look there. I think good with that. It just definitely looks better than what I just had. Yeah, much nicer. It has some scratches and some other things on it. Again, we could keep fine-tuning this thing as much as we want. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of a degree over here as well. As you see here, you can also see how it's going to look. Bring this closer. And again, you can add some depth to it if you want, just to add like a bump to it, kind of. I don't want too much, maybe 2 or 3. And again, the edge scattering, I could add a little bit more of that in here. Bring this up a little bit more, just to add a little bit more of a discoloration to it. And I could bring this one down a little bit more, just kind of, just lightly, just to give it some variations. Okay, I'm good with that. Let's see how that looks. And I can save this. And select this section too. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. It has some scratches in different locations now. A little bit of a variation in colors. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Okay, so now I got these sections done. I really like the way it came out. This will be the first model in more of the darker color option. And I'm going to definitely go ahead and export this out now so I can save this out. So the way to do that is you go to the file, go to export objects and textures. And in here, we want to make sure this export geometry is on. And I'm going to call this, we're going to make this an FBX. I'm going to call this Sci Fi Flooring 1 Dark, just for understanding. So that's where it's going to be saved to, the object. And then the export textures is another important thing. So personally for this, I'm taking this in Blender. So I'm going to use Blender cycles as the method. And I'm going to make sure the actual pathway is the same as the prior one, which it is. So let's go in the same folder. And I'm also going to just add a name here, Sci-Fi Dark, something like that. Hit OK. This way it'll texture or add a name to all the textures Sci-Fi Dark, so I don't get confused with the light one. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I use Blender, and I'm going to use export constructor for per channel package as it's set up. All these things are standard setting. And then I'm also going to make these all TGAs. I feel that TGAs work a lot better out of 3DCoat, for some reason, it just has a much better look to them. So again, take these all to TGA. And a few things. I'm going to add the ambient inclusion. That will add the darkness to the objects. I don't need an emission because I'm not adding any emission to this. So we can get rid of that one. I have normal, rough, metal, and then B color is the color. But I am going to add one. I should have just left that one alone, but I'm just going to show you how to add a texture. Just add texture. And in here, I'm going to select this, but I'm going to first select this and say, I want this to be a specular color. I'm going to add specular to this too. And in here, I'm going to just add an SPEC. And that way it becomes my specular. So if I decide to bring this into like Unreal or something like that, I actually have the specular map as well, which is great. All right, so now I have 5 maps. This one is going to be the actual AO, and we can just kind of go up a little bit and make sure this says ambient inclusion. I don't know what happened there. I must have deleted something by accident. But yes, we definitely want ambient inclusion to this one. So now we got B color, metal, rough, normal, specular, and ambient inclusion. And we got them all set up to TGAs. Perfect. And yeah, if I was going to do like a displacement map, I would use an XER as a different method. But these are fine for everything I'm doing. So going to export. There we go. And now the whole thing just is taken from here and sent there as a FBX with all the textures included. All right, cool. So now I thought I would do the exact opposite and just add a little bit more variations to this and just show you how quickly it is to kind of rework this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward some of this, but I'm going to go with a white painted metal. I think that would look really cool with the orange. I'm going to keep the orange alone. So I'm going to go over to metal and then go to paints and see what we have in here. And here we definitely have a white paint here. So if I select this, you can see that I could go ahead and get rid of this as well. And we can bring this here. And I want to see what that's going to look like, right? So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And yeah, just it adds a lot of detail there. I think I want to reduce some of the things down. So again, I'm going to make a copy of this. So duplicate this, double click it, and now we're in here, right? This thing keeps popping up every time. I'm going to bring this down. It's taking up too much of my space, but right. So in here, you'll see that I have a lot of degrees in here and roughness. If I bring this down, and I bring this down as well, or bring this up, we could take this one now and just the edge scatter or degree, I want to bring this down, and this kind of helps make it less of that texture coming out, which is whatever they have in here. I'm also going to take this degree down because this is making it really just a little bit overbearing. I don't want to have that much edge work on this. So I brought the edge scattering or the actual degree down quite a bit. I think I'll even go with that. And edge scattering, we can add in a little bit like that. And then the metalness, if I want, I can make it more of a metal or take it down completely. I could bring it to 100. And I think the roughness, if I bring this up a little bit or down a little bit, that might make it a little bit shiny. In the degree, I think I'm going to bring this just slightly at a small degree. And the depth looks good. And yeah, let's try this. So I'm going to select here, here, here. I'm going to save this one. Yeah, I think that looks really cool. Okay, so let's continue. And again, I don't have a problem with having some grays in here, but I want to use more of a white. And in this too, we can change that. So let's go back in and do some more adjustments. All right, so let's go to paint metal, see what we got in here. So here's another white, another white. Again, you can go by different variations. Now this paint too is the same multiple times. So I can kind of select whatever one I want here. This is paint 3. So let me select this one. Let's see how this is going to look. I'm going to try to add a different white to this. Bring this over a little bit. This is going to be kind of a, that looks really cool. I think that is right out of the box. It looks nice. So I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and click on it. Click on it. And I'm going to go with this one and this one. I just think that looks really nice. Yeah, the smudge marks look, this looks a little bit redundant, right? So I might just go in here, bring this over here just a little bit. I'm just going to kind of just move this over a little bit, kind of like that. And that way it doesn't look like it's the same texture over and over again, right? That's one way to control that situation. Yeah, I think that looks really cool. I also think it would be kind of nice to add in some variations to this as well. So I might use some like different blues or something. Thinking about the edge here looks a little bit too much. See, the edge is really dark here. I'm almost thinking that I want to go in and kind of adjust that a little bit more. So let's double click it. And then inside in here, what we could do here just to kind of change this a little bit, we'll take this edge down a lot smaller and this one down. See what that's going to look like. Again, we don't want that edge to be so, dark. Edge scatter, let's bring this down. I want to kind of take this degree down a little bit too. See, that degree right there is really what's causing it. I want to kind of bring that down a little bit, just like that. And I think that will look a lot nicer for the upper piece, as well as this. Yeah, I think that looks better. That other one had way too much of the edge problems. I still think it would be nice to add in a little bit more of, which we can do in a minute, add some more colors to this. So I think I'm good with that. And this one as well. Got two different whites here. They're a little bit off from each other, but that's fine. I'm okay with some of these dark colors in here too, because it kind of just adds to it. I do want to change these little things here. So we can save. And then we can go back in here now. I want to go back to the actual metal. And I thought it'd be really nice. I saw a really nice metal color there that I liked. So metal. And if you go up, I really like this gold rough. I made this into like a blue color. And I'm going to zoom in on this. Just basically touch these up with a little bit of blue. So one here. One there. And we can use the Alt key to kind of get out of there. Again, this is really nice. With this one here. This one. Again, just get all these. Okay, cool. All right, so I really like the white that I've got here, and I'm going to do something similar to the other side here. So again, hit the Alt key, kind of turns around. Like I said, I like this white here. I'm going to continue to use that white. So I have that actually in the paint metal, and I believe it was this one here. And we're going to bring this closer. I want to add a little bit more to this. It's a little bit too much of the black stuff there. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here and just update this a little bit. So I'm in here now. I'm going to select this one and then double click it. And again, I'm going to add in, right now it's very clean. I'm going to add a little bit more detail here by bringing this up a little bit and this edge up. As well as I'd like to get this one here more of a dark, just to give a little bit more of detail here. So if I bring this up, all right, so on this actual texture, the top color is going to be the actual darker color, which is the main color. Sometimes it's different, and this one is white. So we want to make sure that this stays white. I'm going to bring this all the way back to the white, hit OK. And this one here, I want to change this color to more of a gray, kind of like this. And now that you'll see that I've done that, we can actually add a little bit more of this detail in. So I could bring this roughness, I guess it's good right where it's at, but if I bring this up here, you can change some of the actual colors here. We could also add in, take the degree down or up. See how that adds in a little bit of that edge. Again, I don't want too much of that, just a tiny bit. And I'm also going to hit the degree a little bit more. And I can bring the metal up. I don't want it too much. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Right about there. And the edge, I'm going to bring the edge in. So the edge can give me a nice look as well. So let's bring this down just a smidgen. And this right here can change. You can bring it down just a little bit like that. And you see that's what it's going to give us. And here I could bring this up a little bit, as well as the degree. And that's fine where it's at. So let's try to see what this looks like. So let's go ahead and click on here and see what that gives us. Control Z. I want to make sure I use the fill. So again, fill. And yeah, that gives us a nice little edge around. I kind of like the white. It's more of a bright white. And see what this one looks like. So yeah, that added a little bit more of a war outlook. And then if I do all these the same, that's a little bit too much. And you see the big difference when we have all these little pieces of metal. We cause some type of issues with that. So I'm going to take this down a little bit more. So I'm going to move this over here. And I'll bring this degree down quite a bit. And I'll also take this degree down more like here. And then the edge itself, I'll bring this down as well, just to give it a little bit. And then the metal, I'll bring this up a little bit. Just like that. And then here too, I'm going to change this a little bit. Bring this degree just up a little bit. So I think this will look nicer. So let's try this. So select this. Now you notice that there's still some edges here that are pretty controlled. I kind of want to get rid of some of this. I think it's still too much. So we can take this degree down. Let's bring this closer. And we could just bring this down. So something like that. I think that will look a lot nicer. So let's go ahead and click on it. See what we get. Yeah, that's much cleaner. It has some edges, but very little. And same with this one. And this one as well. This will take a few seconds, a lot more detail. Yeah, that looks a lot cleaner. It has a little bit of, situations on it that make it look a little dirty, which is good. We don't want it too much. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. So we're going to stick with that white. And since I like this, I'm going to save as new. And you see the difference between the two, right? It's just much brighter white. That's kind of what I was looking for. So let's select all these. Again, if you have something that looks too similar, we can always adjust the details a little bit. I think overall this looks really good. Yeah, no, I think this looks great. Let's go ahead and save this now. So again, go to File. We're going to export objects and textures again. This time I'm going to call it white. And I'm going to also call this Sci Fi white. And again, same settings, and it will be all white basically. So that way it's just easier. So I'm going to export this. This way the whole thing is nice and bright. All right, so I thought it'd be helpful if I brought this in Blender so people could figure out how to use Blender to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and use the scene I already had set up with area lights and camera and all that good stuff from my prior scenes. And I'm just going to bring this in now from 3DCoat. So I'm going to import. This time it's going to be an FBX because again, we went with FBX on this one. And I'm going to go back to the same folder where I put everything. Right here. And Sci-Fi Floor Dark. And we're going to go with the dark on this one. And we want to make sure that there's no animation, so we don't need to worry about that. And I'm okay with everything the way it is. Let's bring this in and see what we get. Might need to adjust the flooring. Now, it sent it back out in the wrong direction, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and say undo. Again, go back to File, Import. And I don't think I turned it. That's probably my own fault there. FBX. We want to go that this is actually... Go ahead and manually do this. Z up, and we'll go with the X forward, import. Cool, that worked out great. So this is the dark one, right? And we can actually now do another one. So I'm going to do these at the same time, new collection. And we'll select this, and the same thing. We're going to ahead and import the FBX, same exact process, this time with the white. And again, Z up, X forward, import. And they both look gray, right? But they're really not. They both have their own colors. So we can actually just call this white. Sci-Fi Floor Panel. And that way we can actually hide whichever one we don't want to see. So let's go ahead and hide the white one first. And there we go. We have our section here. Now, there's a couple things wrong with this. It's because the way it's set up. And one of the things I'm going to do is also bring in the pipes after this, but let me just start with this for now. So we can hide this. And we have a floor here, which is this. And that's fine the way it is. This is all texture map. It's just a little different than the materials, of course. So it gives it a little bit more of somewhat of a realistic type, purpose. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to emulate the existing ones that we had. So I'm going to rescale this. Okay, so as I noticed, the ones that I had materials on is quite a bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and select everything in that new dark one. And I could also select everything in here as well. So we'll do both of these. That way we select them both. So select all these. And we're going to scale this up with the S key. Only these. So let's go and select everything. Shift key. And then in the white one, same thing. Hit Shift. And this as well. Okay, now we can scale this up. So scale. And we're going to scale this up quite a bit. And we're going to put this at 1.5. 1.5. 1.5. And I think it's a little bit bigger than that. I think it's 1.64 is what I had earlier. So let's do 6.4. And again, just a little bit different size, which is fine. 0.64. 1.64. Cool. Okay, now it actually perfectly lined up with that. And we can go back to the top view here. And we hit the G key on the actual Y. And we can move this into place. So this one will line up right about here. So I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit here. And I'm going to kind of adjust this as I need to. Again, just a little bit bigger. Right about there. That could be like 1.5. You could try that. So let's go with 0.5. Tab. That's real close. And hit the G key again on the Y. And I'm just going to adjust this. G on the Y. Actually do this again. G on the Y. And we can move this in as we need to. Kind of like about right about there. Great. That was real close to the other one. And this way, it will help us really figure this out. So one thing I'd like to do is unclick. I'm going to select this. And to make things easier, I'm going to select these lights or these tubes here. And I want to make sure that these are all selected, which I have a copy of all those, right? And also these pipes. So that way, it's just going to be much easier to take these and copy them over. Okay, cool. So I got those here selected in 4. And I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to go back into the new one here. And I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to go back over here to the white one and do a paste. So that way I'm getting multitude of those. All right, cool. So that's the first start. Now I can go back in here and just hide everything else. So go back to the one we just did. And we can just say Shift, hide everything there. Okay, cool. So now we got our tube. We have the lights. We have these sections here. And we have these. So what I'm going to do also to make things a little easier is select those 4. And these, we can make a copy of this. So select this. Actually, they're all selected. That's good. Top view. And we can do Shift D, G on the Y and bring these down. So now we have a copy. Line these up. Get a little closer. And again, G on the Y. And we'll bring these up just a little bit. Right about there. Cool. And yeah, that's it for that. Now we can go back and adjust this as we need it. And we'll go back and hide the white ones. So select these, select this. And now all we got is the darker ones. And we can go back to the camera view and see what we have. So yeah, this is really nice looking. I'm going to save as, and this will be Sci Fi Paneling 2. And we can say save as. Okay, so what we need to do now is go to the shading section and we need to do some adjustments. So we can go out of world view or world type and go to object type. Now you notice that we only really have 2 maps here. One, and we also have this one, which is the normal. And this is always happens, which is not a big deal. We just have to work around it. So I'm going to make sure that we start adding in all the other things that we need. So we got the RGB already, which is fine. That's why we still have a decent looking map here. But I'm going to just make this simple. I'm going to duplicate this one, put it here. I'm going to go back to open. And this one's going to be the metal. So I want to make sure it's dark metal. Open image. And bring this over to metal. Now this is not going to be that. We're going to use linear. So it doesn't cause any problems. I'm going to go here. And this will just make this look so much better. So let's go ahead and duplicate this again. Again, now I got this set up. This one's going to be the roughness. So again, dark, rough, open. Bring this over here. And then the next one will be specular, which is in here under specular. Bring this down. And we can bring this out. And just to make it simpler, I'm just going to duplicate this, open, and this will be specular, dark. Again, RGB is fine on that one. I don't have a problem with that. This will come over here to specular, and I'm going to select it right. Okay, so that's been done. Which object did we just do? I might go with this one. Yeah, that's the one right there. So we're going to rename this here just to make it easy. And we're going to just call this dark texture. Perfect. Hit enter. All right. And now we have that selected. We can go in and I'm going to change everything to go right to the dark one that we just typed in. So we got to look for D. It takes a few seconds. Dark texture, right? And we need to apply that to all these. And we're going to do this for each of these textures just to make it simpler. And I'm going to go fast forward so you don't have to waste time watching this part of it. And I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. The actual beginning of this video shows the exact 2 different panels that I've created for your enjoyment. All right, thanks for joining me. Subscribe. Thank you.